Continuing with Chapter 16 of The Sword and the Stone by T.H. White. We're going on a boar hunt. We've got Mr. Twite. We've got the Wart. Merlin is there in running shorts. Sir Ector. Sir Grummerson. King Pellinore walking at the back with the peasants. Robin Wood has come out of the forest to join the chase. Kay is not with them. It hasn't been a very exciting chapter. I am getting tired of the hunting subplot of this book. Maybe Merlin's going to turn Ward into something this time. I guess we'll find out as we continue. Boar hunting was like cub hunting to this extent, that the boar was attempted to be held up. The object of the hunt was to kill him as quickly as possible. Wart took up his position in the circle round the monster's lair, and knelt down on one knee in the snow, with the handle of his spear couched on the ground. Ready for emergencies, he felt the hush which fell upon the company, and saw Master Twitey wave silently to the limerer to uncouple his hounds. The two limers plunged immediately into the covert which the hunters surrounded. They ran mute. There were 5 long minutes during which nothing happened. The hearts beat thunderously in a circle, and a small vein on the side of each neck throbbed in harmony with each heart. The heads turned quickly from side to side as each man assured himself of his neighbors, and the breath of life streamed away on the north wind most sweetly, for each realized how beautiful life was, which a reeking rush might, in a few seconds, rape away from one or another of them if things went wrong. The boar did not this time express his fury with his voice. There was no uproar in the covert, or yelping from the limers. Only, about 100 yards away from the Wart, there was a sudden black creature standing at the edge of the clearing. It did not seem to be a boar particularly, not in the first seconds that it stood there. It had come too quickly to appear to be anything. It was charging Sir Grummar before the Wart had recognized what it was. The black thing rushed over the white snow, throwing up little puffs of it. Sir Grummar, also looking black against the snow, turned a quick somersault in a rather larger puff. A kind of grunt, but no noise of falling came clearly on the wind. And then the boar was gone. When it was gone, but not before, the Wart knew certain things about it. Things which he had not had time to notice while the boar was there. He remembered the rank mane of bristles standing upright on its razor back, one flash of sour tush, and the staring ribs, the head held low, and the red flame from a piggy eye. Sir Grummar got up, dusting snow out of himself unhurt, blaming his spear. A few drops of blood were to be seen frothing on the white earth. Master Twitey put his horn to his lips. The allants were uncoupled, as the exciting notes of their manie began to rise through the forest, and then the whole scene began to move. The limers, which had reared the boar, the proper word for dislodging, were allowed to pursue him, to make him keen on their work. The brachs gave musical tongue, the allants galloped baying through the drifts. Everybody began to shout and run. "Ahoy! Ahoy!" cried the foot people. "Shahoo! Shahoo! Avaunt, sire, avaunt!" "Swift! Swift!" cried Master Twitey anxiously. Now, gentlemen, give the hounds room, if you please." I say!" cried King Pellinore. "Did anybody see which way you went? What an exciting day! What? Ça avaunt! Ça avaunt!" "Hold hard, Pellinore!" cried Sir Ector. "Warehounds, man, warehounds! Can't catch 'em yourself, you know. Il est halt, and "Till is toe!" echoed the foot people. "Tilly-ho!" sang the trees. "Tally-ho!" murmured a few distant snowdrifts, as the heavy branches, disturbed by vibrations, slid noiseless puffs of sparkling powder to the muffled earth. The Wart found himself running with Master Twitey. It was like beagling in a way, except that it was beagling in a forest, where it was sometimes difficult even to move. Everything depended on the music of the hounds and the various notes which the huntsman could blow to tell where he was and what he was doing. Without these, the whole field would have been lost in 2 minutes, and even with them, about half of it was lost in 3. Wart stuck to Twitey like a burr. He could move as quickly as the huntsman because, although the latter possessed the experience of a lifetime, he himself was smaller and got through obstacles, and had, moreover, been taught by Maid Marian. He noticed that Robin kept up too, but soon the grunting of Sir Ector and the baaing of King Pellinore were left behind. Sir Grummore had given in early, having had most of the breath knocked out of him by the boar, and stood far in the rear, declaring that his spear could no longer be quite sharp. Kay had stayed with him, so that he should not get lost. The foot people had been early mislaid, because they did not understand the notes of the horn. Merlin had torn his breeches, and stopped to try to mend them up again by magic. The sergeant had thrown out his chest so far in crying "Tally-ho," and telling everybody which way they ought to run, that he had soon lost all sense of place, and was leading a disconsolate party of villagers in Indian file, at double, within knees up, in the wrong direction. Hob was still in the running. "Swuff, swuff," panted the huntsman, again addressing the wart, as if he had been a hound. "Not so fast, master. They are going off the line." Even as he spoke, Wart noticed that the hound music was weaker and more querulous. "Stop," said Robin, "or we may tumble over." The music died away. "Swift! Swift!" shouted Master Twitey at the top of his voice. "Story! So-ho!" He swung his baldric in front of him, and lifting the horn to his lips, began to blow a retreat. There was a single note from one of the limers. "Ho-array!" cried the huntsman. The limer's note grew in confidence, faltered, then rose to full bay. "Ho-array! Hear how am Hark to Beaumont, to valiant ho-moy, ho-moy, ho-ho-ho-ho." The limer was taken up by the tenor bells of the branches. The noise grew to a crescendo of excitement as the bloodthirsty thunderer of the almonts pealed through the lesser notes. "They have him," said Twitey briefly. And the 300 and the 3 humans began to run again, while the huntsman blew encouragement with "Troot, troot." In a small bushment, the grimy boar stood at bay. He had got his hindquarters into the nook of a tree, blown down by a gale, in an impregnable position. He stood on the defensive, with his upper jaw wreathed back in a snarl. The blood of Sir Grummore's gash welled fatly among the bristles of his shoulder and down his leg, while the foam of his chops dropped on the blushing snow and melted it. His small eyes darted in every direction. The hounds stood round, yelling at his hateful mask, and Beaumont, with his back broken, writhed at his feet. He paid no further attention to the living hound, for it could do him no harm. He was black, flaming, and bloody. "So-ho," said the huntsman softly. He advanced upon the murderer with his spear held out in front of him, and the hounds, encouraged by their master, stepped forward with him pace by pace. The scene changed as suddenly as a house of cards falling down. The boar was not at bay any more, but charging Master Twitey. As it charged, the Alliance closed in, seizing it fiercely by shoulder or throat or leg, so that what surged down the huntsman was not one boar, but a bundle of animals. He dared not use his spear for fear of hurting the dogs. The bundle rolled forward remorselessly, as if his hounds did not impede it at all. Twitey began to reverse his spear, to keep the charge off with its butt end. But even as he reversed it, the tussle was upon him. He sprang back, tripped over a root, and the battle closed on top. The wart pranced round the edge, waving his own spear in an agony, but there was nowhere where he dared to thrust it in. Robin dropped his spear, drew his falchion. In the same moment, stepped into the huddle of snarls, and calmly picked up an allant by the leg. The dog did not let go, but there was space where its body had been. Into this space the falchion went slowly. Once, twice, thrice, the whole superstructure stumbled, recovered itself, stumbled again, and sank down ponderously on its left side. The hunt was over. Master William Twitty drew one leg slowly from under the boar, stood up, took hold of his knee with his right hand, moved it inquiringly in various directions, nodded to himself, and stretched his back straight. Then he picked up his spear without saying anything and limped over toward Beaumont. He knelt down beside him and took his head in his lap. He stroked Beaumont's head and said, "Hark to Beaumont softly, Beaumont, mon ami. Oyez, our Beaumont the valiant. Swef, la danse, Beaumont, swef, swef." Beaumont licked his hand, but could not wag his tail. The huntsman nodded to Robin, who was standing behind, and held the hound's eyes with his own. He said, "Good dog, Beaumont the valiant. Sleep now, old friend Beaumont. Good old dog." Then Robin's falchion let Beaumont out of this world, to run free with Orion, and to roll among the stars. The wart did not like to watch Master Twitty for a moment or two. The strange little leathery man stood up without saying anything, and whipped the hounds off the corpse of the boar, as he was accustomed to do. He put his horn to his lips and blew the 4 long notes of the mort without a quaver, but he was blowing the notes for something else, and he startled the wart because he seemed to be crying. And we'll pause there.